Currently, one of the more popular faction carriers is the Vasago. This ship is fast, this ship has a lot of DPS, and it has a pretty good warp speed. This is after all a angel ship, so those are some of the main traits that you can expect from the Vasago. So, what is going to be the maximum possible DPS on this ship? Well, we are going to find that out today. I'll be doing the build with the destroyers and the build with the bombers because these two builds are currently the most popular. 7308.07 DPS. This is the shield tank Vasago. You can do a armor tank, after all angel ships can do both shield and armor, and have the same lightweight ship setup as with the Astarte. I want the ships to be as similar as possible, and have the 4 damage mods installed as well. As for the rigs, I have the cheap lightweight ship burst adapters, and well, as for the implant, the bombard tactic implant is still going to have an effect. Now, I said this last time, but I expect the bombard tactic to lose effect on lightweight ships at one point. So I believe that's going to happen when we receive the lightweight ships, when we receive the lightweight ship implants, which should happen probably in about 2 or 3 months. I don't have the exact date, but I think it's on the Trello roadmap, which I'll be taking a look very soon. Okay, well, let's check out the maximum possible DPS on the Vasago. Now, this ship has a equal bonus on both turrets and missiles. It gets a 10% bonus on damage on the turret lightweight ships and on the missile lightweight ships. So you can do some very interesting combinations with this carrier. So about 21,000 DPS with the drum bombs active, which is pretty solid. With the defense module active, 9,834.82 DPS with one damage mod, 11,835 with the second one. The DPS is 12,785 with the third one. The DPS is 13,812, and with the last one, the DPS is 14,342.98. Now, it does feel a little bit more than the Astarte. I mean, it is to be expected because this ship does have a better bonus on the damage. However, the Astarte has some other traits, which again is okay. Each one of these faction carriers has its own thing, and I honestly really do like that about them. And right now I have about 45,000 DPS with the cheap lightweight ships, although if you have the more expensive ones, then your DPS is approaching 60 to 70 or perhaps even 80,000, and that is approaching Dreadnought level of DPS. Now let me quickly save this build and let me quickly show you the other build with the bombers. The bomber fleet has a lot more paper DPS, but as I've shown in the last video, the turret lightweight ships simply... Okay, sorry for the weird cut. Now, last time the turret lightweight ships have been outperforming the missile ones, and I believe that is because of the new skills, although on the Astarte the turret ships have a higher bonus than missiles, so that also does play a role. However, on this ship both weapon systems have a exact same damage boost, so it will be interesting to see how the DPS output behaves in this case. Okay, I have the bombers equipped and the DPS is indeed a little bit higher. So now it's time to undock and let's see how this boat will perform. And right after, I will immediately go and do some combat. First with the bombers and then with the turrets. Let me quickly readjust the modules, and okay, now it's much better. With the bombard tactics, I have about, well, I have some good DPS anyway, about 26,000 DPS with the bombs active, which is fantastic. When the defense mode is active and when the damage mode is activated, 12,000 DPS, now 14,000 DPS, okay. With the third one, 15,000 DPS. And with the last one, 15,741.21 DPS. You know, that's actually about 45,000 DPS with the bombs. And if you have the faction carrier, if you have the faction lightweight ships, the offense lightweight ships, your DPS can be about 70, 80, perhaps even 90,000 DPS. So yeah, a fantastic DPS output, and so far the highest DPS output on any carrier that I have tested out. So let's do some combat, and the first round will be with the bomber fleet, and then I will swap the builds to the star fleet. The mission will be the same. I always aim to do the same mission so that the results are as accurate as possible. And I expect this thing to fly through, to blaze through the mission. The orbit will be at 10 kilometers. Should be an average for most of the lightweight ships that are currently equipped, including the destroyer. I have to say, the new skills have solved a lot of issues that the bombers used to have. Now you don't have to worry about any missing DPS that has been severely reduced. Now the Vasago warps incredibly quickly. It basically warps as fast as a battleship, which makes it fantastic for PvE. You can go from anomaly to anomaly extremely quickly without wasting much time. And the DPS output on this thing is also really good. So far, the bombers seem to be doing really well, but I feel like when I swap back to the stars, that the stars will be dominating again with less DPS, which is again very interesting. Doesn't mean that the bombers are bad. The bombers are good in some certain situations, but for the most part now I think for PvE I would prefer the stars because of their tracking and because of how much damage they do. Okay, next wave. So far it's going well. The module is an active module, as I shown last time. It does use capacitor, and the capacitor on the Vasago is a bit lower than the capacitor on the Astarte. The Astarte has the best capacitor because it is a blood raider ship and they're known for their capacitor performance, which is one of the things that is normal, one of the things that makes the ships unique. But the Vasago has the advantage of having better DPS and has the advantage of being much faster, and you can do a shield or armor tank. Again, that really depends on player preference. If I decide to fly one of the faction carriers, it will probably be the Astarte, mostly because I already have experience in flying blood raider ships, and I believe that the Astarte is the ship for me. But if not the Astarte, then probably the Vasago, because I also have experience with the angels. But it doesn't really matter which one I pick, because I think they will perform in a very similar way. I mean, I have a lot of time to choose. I'm still basically waiting for the faction dreadnoughts. The one thing that's preventing me from buying one of these ships is the skills. I have excellent skills for dreadnoughts, almost all on level 5, but my carrier skills are not the best, and That's basically the one of the main things that is preventing me from flying one of these ships. But if I were to pick one, I would probably go with the Astarte, because I like Blood Raiders, I have experience with them, and I think I will enjoy that ship the most. But who knows, I might change my opinion down the road. There is still a lot of things that can happen, so could be the Astarte, could be the Vasago, could be the villain, that ship is also fantastic, or could even be the Anaconda. It all depends on the situation. But the DPS output on the bombers has been performing really well so far. I'm very happy with the current results. This is wave number 3, I believe, and I believe that the destroyers will perform much better.
We're under attack.
But we will see. I can definitely feel the DPS difference between the Astarte and the Vasago. That extra 2.5% damage per skill definitely helps a lot. The Astarte has 7.5% per level, while the Vasago has 10%, which does have a significant impact on the total DPS in the end. But in any case, the overall clear time for... I think you will definitely notice the DPS difference in nullsec, where you have the tier 10 anomalies. And I actually believe that the Vasago is going to give better ISK per hour, mostly because of the extra speed that you can do. It saves time warping, and the extra DPS can also help out quite a bit. So you really have a very interesting boat over here, and I'm very interested to see how this thing will perform when I slap the destroyers. That's going to be fun. The Astarte has been dominating with the destroyers. That thing was so much fun. The battleships have been popping left and right like popcorn, and I really enjoy that. So I really expect this ship to do a little bit better in that aspect. So we will find out. Now, as for the lightweight ships, I think the faction ones, the offense or assault lightweight ships, they should be more affordable as time goes on. I honestly have no idea how much they cost. We had one very interesting freighter, not a freighter, but a cloaky hauler that was 5.6 billion ISK, or actually no, 7.8 billion ISK worth, and they have been carrying the lightweight ships, the faction ones. And at the time, it was 2.5 billion for one faction lightweight ship, and that was a couple months ago. I believe their price did drop, but they are still quite pricey. In the end, the faction lightweight ships are indeed very expensive, and if you are a industrial player, then I believe you can manufacture them and you can sell them to pilots who have these ships for a cheaper price. I'm fairly sure that they will definitely buy a couple of them. If I go and buy the starter, I'm definitely going to be using the faction lightweight ships just for the extra DPS. The ship itself costs like 100 billion. Giving out 20 billion for the lightweight ships is not going to be much in the grand scale. But yeah, there is no secret that these ships do cost a lot. They're quite pricey. and they are very valuable targets. Well, when I say valuable targets, if you have a scout in your, well, I say scout, but if you have a spy in the corp or alliance, and if they spot this ship running around, you can bet that they will go and try to assemble a fleet to catch this ship. So when you're flying them, be very, very careful, because like I mentioned before, they are big, juicy targets, and a lot of players want to have a kill mail of these ships. So yeah. And if you hear anything in the background, I have a thunderstorm. That's the third thunderstorm of today. Kind of funny how the weather just switches between being sunny and warm and being scary and full with nasty lightnings. But if you hear something explode in the background, don't worry, it's just, you know, random lighting striking nearby. So yeah, I should be good. The tablet and phone doesn't require a constant connection to the outlet to have power. Okay, well, let's swap the build. Let's take the destroyers and let's see how they will perform. Of course, I have to swap the hangar modification. I have no idea how much these hangar modifications cost, but I can check it out on the market. I think they should be... I mean, when they were released, I remember they used to be like 50 billion, something like that, and they are not available on the market. Well, 2.8 billion is the frigate one. Okay, but the tier 4 one might be more expensive than the ship itself. So yeah, they can be quite expensive items. And let me quickly add the stars so that I have the same setup as with the starter. Although it doesn't really matter much, because all of the lightweight ships have the same DPS output. They have the same damage output basically. The only difference is some have better thermal, some have better EM, some have better kinetic, explosive, and things like that. Okay, well, lovely weather outside. Kinda getting worried. That was a fat lighting right in the hill outside of my window. Lovely. The beauty of living in the forest. Okay, so let's warp back and let's see how the Vasago will perform now. Now you might be wondering, how are the frigates performing, the turret frigates? Well, the turret frigates are not really meant for DPS. Active. They have the lowest DPS output, but the frigates have tackle. So if you are running the Vasago for, let's say, PvP, you want to have at least one interceptor squad that will be your tackle. They basically have scramblers. The destroyers have webs. So a mix of frigates and destroyers for PvP is definitely the way to go, I would say. But for PvE, you don't really have to use the frigates, because again, they have the lowest DPS. They are more suitable for tackling. And well, immediately upon launching the drones, they started to tear everything to shreds as expected. The lightweight, I mean, I have to be honest, the lightweight destroyers are so good. They really are performing really well, and I'm actually happy that they have been buffed.
We're under attack.
Which makes me wonder what is the next buff going to occur on the ships. I believe the next thing that will happen is a buff to the missiles. Now the missile destroyers, the missile destroyer, because there is basically only one destroyer, is performing really well. I'm very happy with its performance. It does apply very good damage. It does very good damage. Has very nice alpha, and overall does work really well. But I can definitely see the bombers being buffed, because it is weird to have like 40,000-60,000 DPS with bombers, but 45,000 DPS destroyers are outperforming them. Now, will not outperform them in some situations. Again, the bombers will do havoc on the battleships and other big boats, but in small ship engagements, the bombers will definitely show a bit of, not weakness, but they will definitely show a bit of lower damage application. Now the problem is not in the DPS. If they would apply full damage, they would be doing that damage that you can see on the fitting window, but the problem is in the applied damage. They don't really apply the damage that well compared to turrets on the smaller targets, and therefore the actual applied the actual DPS that you're doing on the target is lower than the DPS that you can see on the fitting window. Meanwhile, with the destroyers, the DPS that you see is the DPS that you apply, which again is a result of the current balance changes. It's a result of how the weapons work. If the target is heavily webbed and scrambled, and if they have target painters on them, then I believe you will be applying 100% of damage, and then the DPS that you see on the fitting window will be applied in practical use. But as of now, the turret lightweight ships, the destroyer squad, is performing much better when placed on a equal playing ground on a ship that has a equal bonus to both turrets and missiles, which, you know, makes the Vasago even more attractive to fly. It is the only faction carrier that has a bonus on both. The Astarte has a 10% bonus per skill level on the turrets, while it has a 7.5 bonus on the missiles. The villain also has a 10% bonus on turrets, 7.5% bonus on missiles. The Anaconda, 10% bonus on missiles, 7.5% bonus on turrets, and the Vasago, 10% on both. So it's very important to know all of the stats of the ships, and yeah, I actually know all of the stats of these ships without looking at them, which is kind of funny, but you know, it is something that I believe every player needs to know if you're flying the ship. It also helps a lot in PvP, because you know what to expect from the ship, and you know if you have the ship to engage, or you know if it is time to disengage. I mean, there's a lot more to it than just simply yeeting your ship at whatever you see. You have to play a bit more tactically in some cases. Well, I say in some cases, but in most cases. Now, what is the clear time? Well, I think it's safe to say that the performance is, well, it feels like the performance has been doubled once I swapped to the destroyers. I mean, I cleared this so much faster with the destroyers that I'm honestly impressed by how much DPS these things can push out. Now, first I thought, you know, it might be a placebo effect, you know, because of how quickly the smaller ships die, but it turns out the big ones die equally as fast. So yeah, that's a very interesting result. And 28 ships. This is the I think the last wave. Well,
We're under attack.
as of now, if you like PvP and PvE and you want a tanky armor tank ship with Evo capabilities, then the Astarte is definitely the way to go. If you like speed and fast ships with high DPS and ships that can be both armor or shield tank, then the Vasago is definitely the way to go. I mean, there is so many other things to include when comparing the ships, and this is why I say that there is no best faction carrier. Every one of these ships has its own advantage, and of course they also have some disadvantages. They are all different. They are all good in some aspects, they're all bad in some other aspects, and in the end, I would say pick the ship that's going to work the best for you. I always, uh, I always say that you should fly a ship that works best for you. In my case, at least that's what I've been doing, and I have been having fun in the game. And after all, the main purpose is to have fun. So fly the ship that you enjoy flying, and fly the ships that you know how to fly. That also is a big key factor. I fly ships that I'm quite skilled at, and that's why I am so successful with these ships, because I know them in and out. I know what they can do, I know what they can do, and all that helps a lot at maximizing the build. It also helps a lot at PvP. So, am I happy with the Vasago? I'm more than happy. This thing is dominating. So far, the highest DPS output out of any faction carrier that I have played, and will be interesting to see how the Anaconda and how the Villain will perform. Both are also fantastic ships, and we will find out which one of these ships has the highest DPS. I'm very interested to see which one of these ships will get the top spot. But with that being said, hope that you guys have enjoyed. If you have any question, feel free to ask me down in the comments below. And with that being said, stay safe, fly safe. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And well, as always, I'll see you next time.